another, and thereby to secure them in such sort as that by their own industry and by the fruits of the earth they may nourish themselves and live contentedly, which is the origin of property. Your fruits of your labor, what you make is your property, is to confer all their power and strength upon one man or upon one assembly of men. The multitude so united in one person is called a commonwealth. Common power, common wealth. In our case, the one man, at that time there was a king of England, that's the one man. Here, we're we the people. We're supposed to be the common power. The one man or king, here's my addition in here. Quote, the only way. Okay, next page. Commonwealth, there it is. Let me know if I read beyond the page, because I'll forget. I'll forget to change the page. The one man king, in that case, was the sovereign. In our form of government, we the people are the sovereign. So the people are intended to wield the ultimate common power. Quote, and because the end of this institution is the peace and defense of them all, and whosoever has right to the end has right to the means, it belongeth of right to whatsoever man or assembly that hath the sovereignty, to be judge both of the means of peace and defense, and to do whatever he shall think necessary to be done, both beforehand for the preserving of peace and security, and when peace and security are lost, for the recovery of the same. The command of the militia, without other institution, maketh him that hath it sovereign. That's Hobbes talking about the militia when I first found it in his book. Whoever has the command of the militia hath its sovereign, is the sovereign. So if we the people are composed of militia and we elect our officers, we are in ultimate charge of the militia. So the command of the militia hath its sovereign. That's us. More proof that we the people are the sovereign. It had already been shown that the whole militia or forces of the Commonwealth is in it to the sovereignty. Saying essentially the same thing again. Sovereign, if he transfers the militia, he retains the judicature in vain. If he transfers or gives it away, he retains the judicature in vain for want of execution of the laws. So he's transferring the militia away from the sovereign power. You're wanting means you're wanting of execution of the laws, or you're lacking execution of the laws. So we see that. This is my argument. Because there is no militia in operation, we are lacking in proper execution of constitutional laws. Every sovereign hath the same right in procuring the safety of his people that any particular man can have in procuring the safety of his own body. And I have in parentheses there. Do I have that? Let's see. No, I don't have it. I don't have it on that. But what I wrote here, my copy, I wrote common power and individual right. Similar to the two clauses of the Second Amendment. The sovereign has the right to procure the safety of the people, the same as the individual procuring the safety of his own body. That's the second part of the right to keep and bear arms. The sovereign has the right of procuring the safety of his people. That's the first part. Will they get rid of the military being necessary to the security of a free state? Oh, here it is. Common power, here's my comment. Common power and enjoy similar to clause of the Second Amendment. Okay. All right. Here we go with John Locke. John Locke, second treatise on civil government. And I have John Locke here, second treatise on civil government. It's not too long. This book's only 130 pages. 1690, British philosopher John Locke. I'm guessing that Locke, when he wrote the second treatise, he may consider this Leviathan to be the first treatise. That's just a guess on my part. They were only, let's see, 39 years apart in the publication. Section 13. God hath certainly appointed government to restrain the violence of men. I easily grant that civil government is the proper remedy for the inconvenience of the state of nature. The state of nature was mentioned by Hobbes. No man in civil society can be exempted from the laws of it. I have never yet found any person so great a patron of anarchy as to affirm. In other words, he hasn't found anybody who promotes anarchy to agree with what he said. Man seeks out and is willing to join a society with others for the mutual preservation of the lives, liberties, and estates, which I call the general name, property. The great and chief end. Therefore, men's uniting into commonwealths and putting themselves under government is the preservation of their property. That goes back to the purpose mentioned in the Constitution's preamble, provide for the common defense. 131, the power of society or legislative constituted by them is obliged to secure everyone's property. Whoever has the legislative or supreme power of any commonwealth is bound to govern by established standing laws, promulgated and known to the people, and not by extemporary decrees. And to employ the force of the community at home only in the execution of such laws. I'll go on Section 8, Clause 15, which I quoted before from the Constitution. And secure the community from inroads and invasion. Invasion, that's incoming invasions, that's in Clause 15. And all this to be directed to no other end but the peace, safety, and public good of the people. Section 134. Great end of men's entering into society, being the enjoyment of their properties and peace and safety, and the great instrument and means of that being the laws established in that society. The law of nature stands as an eternal rule for all men, legislators, as well as others. The rules that they make for other men's actions must, as well as their own and other men's actions, be conformable to the law of nature, i.e., to the will of God. 144. Because the laws have a constant and lasting force and need a perpetual execution, therefore it is necessary that there should be a power always in being which should see to the execution of the laws. Now, when I mention the laws, I'm only talking about constitutional laws. Article 6, Clause 2, laws made in pursuance thereof, the Constitution. I'm not, as far as I'm concerned, a law that's not constitutional is no law at all, and that's well documented. Okay, and thus the legislative and executive power come often to be separated. 219. Where the laws cannot be executed, it is all, such as today. It is all one as if there were no laws. And a government without laws is a mystery in politics, unconceivable to human capacity, and inconsistent with human society. Society can never, by the fault of another, lose the original right it has to preserve itself. which can only be done by a settled legislative and a fair and impartial execution of the laws made by it. Men can never be secure from tyranny if there be no means to escape it till they are perfectly under it. And therefore it is that they have not only a right to get out of it, but to prevent it. 221, the legislative acts against the trust reposed in them when they endeavor to invade property and to make themselves masters or arbitrary disposers of the lives, liberties, or fortunes of the people. So it's the same, the legislative acts against the trust when it does these other things here. When it acts against the lives, liberty, and properties. So there's supposed to be a trust. The people are supposed to have a certain trust in the legislative governance. 222. The reason why men enter into society is the preservation of their property. In the end, why they choose and authorize a legislative is that there may be laws made and rules set as guards and fences to the properties of all the members of society. It can never be supposed to be the will of the society that the legislative should have a power to destroy that which everyone designs to secure. Whenever legislators endeavor to take away and destroy the property of the people, or to reduce them to slavery under arbitrary power, they put themselves into a state of war with the people. Hobbes said the same thing, which we quoted that before. By this breach of trust, they forfeit the power the people had put into their hands for quite contrary ends, and it devolves to the people. The power, the legislative, the government's power devolves to the people, who have a right to resume their original liberty and provide for their own safety and security, which is the end for which they are in society. We mentioned that before. So I'm going to mention soon, I'm going to mention what happened in Massachusetts in 1774. This exact thing happened 2 years before the Declaration of Independence. The people of Massachusetts Bay and other colonies, the people literally took over government and took it away from the crown-appointed officials. 226. This doctrine of power of the people of providing for their safety anew when their legislators have acted contrary to their trust by invading their property is the best defense against rebellion. And the probablest means to hinder it, for rebellion being in opposition, not to persons but to authority, which is founded only in the constitutions and laws of the government. Authority is founded in the constitutions. Rebellion is against the authority. Those, whoever they be, who by force break through and by force justify the violation of them, the constitutions and laws, are truly and properly rebels. What I mentioned before, in Washington, D.C. and New York City, rebellion, insurrection, right? 226. Okay, continuing with law, 233. Must men alone be debarred the common privilege of opposing force with force? I'll read that again. Must men alone be debarred or prevented the common privilege of opposing force with force, which nature allows so freely with all other creatures for their preservation from injury? Question mark. I answer, block. Self-defense is a part of the law of nature. The people have a right to resist and defend themselves from injury. 240. Who shall be judge, whether the prince or legislative act contrary to their trust? Question mark. To this I reply, the people shall be the judge. 243. The people have provided a legislature with power, but when by the miscarriages of those in authority it is forfeited upon the forfeiture or at the termination of the time set, it reverts to the society, the people have a right to act as supreme. And continue the legislative in themselves, or erect a new form, or under the old form place it in new hands, as they think good. Now, this sounds very, very similar. You read the Declaration of Independence, you read that, you read the Declaration of Independence, very, very similar in words. My example, in summer and fall, I mentioned before, 74, the provinces, and then again, July 4, 1776, and the colonies acting as one. Colonies acting as one did this July 4th, and each of the 13 provinces did it in 1774 as individual governments. All right, 1723, Virginia Militia Act. King George I. An act for the settling and better regulation of the militia. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I don't want it to be too dry, but I will read the underline, the emphasis that I put in there. Regulation of the militia is absolutely necessary for the defense of the country. Again, this is Virginia Militia 1723. All free male persons whatsoever from 21 years to 60 years of age within this respective county to serve in horse or foot. Means infantry or cavalry. 1757, King George II. An act for the better regulating and disciplining of the militia. And again, this is Virginia. And I underlined county lieutenant. County lieutenant was the top militia officer in the county. But in the county command structure, they also had the colonel, lieutenant colonel, and other inferior officers. But I wanted to mention I underlined the county lieutenant here because it's an odd title. That came from, there was a title in England called the Lord Lieutenant of the county. The county lieutenant came from the Lord Lieutenant. It is nothing to do with the lieutenant under a captain. It's a different thing. Okay, part 2, shall list all male persons above the age of 18 years and under the age of 60 within this colony, under the command of such captain as he shall think fit. And then it mentions the county sheriff. These are my comments. The county sheriff is mentioned in several places in this statute, 1757, but it is not relative to militia command. It's relative to collections of fines and levies imposed on delinquents in the militia. In other words, if you failed to show up for muster, or you showed up without the proper arms and improvements, there was in the statute there are fines, specific fines for each violation, and depending in every different rank of officer, they have specific responsibilities. Okay. 1765 to 1770. They were rebelling against the Stamp Act in the 1760s. And they had a Stamp Act Congress convened in New York City Hall and from those dates in October. And the Stamp Act was repealed at that time, after that Congress. It was repealed in England. Let's see. Stamp Act Congress, Declaration of Rights and Grievances. That was a document they issued, a political declaration. 1765 to 1769. Blackstone's Commentaries on the Laws of England. Is book 1 of Blackstone's, and I have there was another commentary written, Tucker's 1803, Blackstone's Commentaries. Tucker's 1803 is in my book of Blackstone's, and what Tucker did, he took the exact Blackstone's commentaries, and then he added his comments where Blackstone's matched with the U.S. Constitution and the Virginia Constitution. Tucker was from Virginia. St. period, George Tucker. That's his full name. So that's what's in my book, George Tucker's Blackstone's. And it was recommended by Dr. Vieira at a meeting I had with him. He recommended in my section in here on martial law, he recommended that I include something from Blackstone's, and that's what I did. Okay. See part of Tucker's 1803 Blackstone's in my book, blah, blah, blah. Who matched Tucker, matched, okay, I said that. Let's see, this is a quote from Tucker. In the land of liberty and free states, no man should take up arms, but with a view to defend his country and its laws. It is because he is a citizen and would wish to continue so that he makes himself for a while a soldier. Tucker matches Blackstone's, I mentioned that. And this matches up with the militia clauses 15 and 16 in Article 1, Section 8. It also matches up what Tucker said there with Webster's 1828. No, Webster's 1828 definition of militia, which I have in here, and you'll see the common language. 5th of March, 1770, Boston Massacre. June 10th. Anybody from Rhode Island knows about this. Rhode Island Patriots burned the grounded HMS Gaspee, which had been interfering and harassing private shipping in Rhode Island. 2 November, Boston Town Meeting, pushed by Samuel Adams, forms a committee of correspondence. The initial purpose of the committee was to prepare a statement, quote, prepare a statement of the rights of the colonists and of this province, in particular, as men, as Christians, and as subjects. Prepare a declaration of the infringement of these rights, and prepare a letter to be sent to all the towns of this province and to the world, giving the sense of this town. They did that. 20 November, Boston Committee of Correspondence issues a report, The Rights of the Colonists, printed by Samuel Adams. Now that was distributed throughout the colonies, and a copy was sent to Benjamin Franklin, who was an ambassador to England at the time, 1772. Franklin had it published in the London newspapers. They thought Franklin wrote it, and Franklin published it, but it was Samuel Adams and the committee that wrote it, and that report. And basically the report, and the report is in my, excerpts from the report are in my book too. Again, I think it's 2 copies, one from the Boston, City of Boston Records and one from the Old South Meeting House. It had 2 sections above. I'll repeat what it said. Prepare a statement of rights. And then prepare a declaration of the infringement of those rights. So what does that sound like? Something that happened on July 4th?
Yeah, exactly. They're starting what they're starting.
Prepare a statement of the rights, and then prepare a declaration of the infringement of those rights. Okay, committees of correspondence were formed. This is being throughout the colonies by county local governments. The same is necessary today. Okay. 1773, 1774, 1716 Boston Tea Party. At the negotiations failed on what to do with the British monopoly tea sitting on British ships in the Boston Harbor. I have a book about Sam Adams. A couple of weeks they were in negotiations. They couldn't come to an agreement, so Boston Tea Party happened. March to June. British Parliament's coercive acts, commonly called the Intolerable Acts, which are the response to the Boston Tea Party. Closed the port of Boston, British control of Massachusetts and county government, control limited, restricted town meetings by the British Army, quartering of British soldiers in people's homes. Early September, reported in the newspapers that local Crown officials appointed per the Mass Government Act, which was part of the coercive acts, suggested disarming the people of Boston. General Gage and Governor Gage, he had 2 positions. Gage had already ordered seizure of all gunpowder. 1 September, before dawn, Gage's redcoat sailed up the Mystic River, seized hundreds of barrels of powder from the Charlestown powder house. Rumor was spread that the British were bombarding Boston. That was a rumor. They weren't bombarding Boston. The next couple of days, though, 2 and 3 September, the powder alarm. Between 20,000 and 100,000 militiamen estimated to have marched towards Boston. From all over New England, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, they all were coming when the rumor spread that Boston was being bombarded. 5 September. First Continental Congress convenes in Philadelphia. September 74. 6 September. Worcester County Convention. Right here. Estimated between 4,600 to 6,000 unarmed militiamen take over county government. They took over the courthouse. Elections of militia officers were ordered. The militia officers at that time, they had commissions from the crown appointed officials. They ordered those commissions deleted, and they wanted everybody to be elected by their militiamen. August to October, every county courthouse in Massachusetts Bay Colony or Massachusetts Bay Province taken over by the people. And crown appointed officials were forced out, except Suffolk County, which was under control of the British Army in Boston. 9 September, Suffolk County resolves passed in county convention meeting outside Boston. The Suffolk resolves delivered to Philadelphia by Paul Revere on horseback. It took him about a week and approved by Continental Congress December 17th. This is a quote from the resolves. Number 11, we therefore, for the honor, defense, and security of this county and province, advise, be elected as officers in the militia, that the inhabitants appear under arms at least once every week. Number 16, demand that a provincial congress be called. That's the Suffolk County resolves. There's a house, Suffolk resolves house, I think it's in Dedham or Milton, I'm not sure which one it is. 5 October, elected representatives convene in Salem to be sworn in, newly elected. Representatives were the lower house of the general court. The upper house, they were appointed. Governor Gage orders representative failed to show as required to swear in the elected representatives. 2 days later, 7 October, representatives gathered in Salem resolved to form a provincial congress, what was being demanded in the counties. I have a section in my book, and I have also a 900-page journal. It's called the 1774-1775 Journal of Provincial Congress in the Massachusetts Committee of Safety. And a lot of what's in my book is right from that journal. And so they formed a provincial congress, and we're going to go into that detail right now.
Excuse me, David.
Yep.
Does anyone want to take 5-10 minutes?
If you want.
Break in between, I'm thinking we're all about everyone.
Yeah, sure.
No one needs to.
Anybody want to take a break? You guys want to take a break?
I'm good, man.
Oh, go ahead. Camera?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, shut the camera. So yes, we are.